So welcome to the Man of the Law podcast. Good to have
Thank,
you on.
thank you for having me, brother.
Yeah, today I'm here with Daniel Herrera. He's a Myanmar, Florida police officer, right? School resource officer
That's
and
right.
crisis negotiator.
Yes,
And
sir.
do you do hostage negotiation too, or is it just crisis stuff?
No, so they changed the name recently. So I'm glad you asked that. That's why I always usually put hostage slash crisis.
Hmm.
They wanted to kind of put under the umbrella of crisis so that we're utilized more.
Sure,
So when I got on the team, it was HNT, hostage negotiations team.
sure,
Then they just changed it. It sounds a little bit nicer, but also again the umbrella of more crisis stuff. So we don't just respond for hostage situations, although we do that as well.
sure.
But mental crises is stuff like that. So
Yeah, mental health stuff also. Yeah.
yeah, we all love the idea because we want to be used more, right? When you're
Right.
passionate about something, you want to do more of it.
Yeah,
So
and hostage negotiator kind of narrows it down to like a
yeah,
specific, yeah, area.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I've dealt with again barricaded subjects with people who had hostages and those who just dealing with mental crisis that want to kill themselves or whatever and so um it's a real privilege. I'm part of a really great team. We're a close-knit group. We work really well together. So that's an enormous passion of mine. So I appreciate you bringing that up because I love talking about it.
No, yeah, thank you. And Chicago has something similar they've kind of implemented. They call it CIT, which I'm a CIT trained officer. So I got, like an extra week of training and I'm CIT certified crisis intervention training. And it,
Right.
it, it helps with the, mental health calls on the beat. But we also have like a specialized unit that goes around and just specifically does that. But the training I took here was good and it helped and it gives you some tools to deal with people on a daily basis and at least be aware kind of what's going on too. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah.
We have that as well here with the CIT training.
Hmm.
So naturally, every member on the crisis negotiation team, you want them to have that training, but
Yeah.
they actually made it mandatory in Myanmar. So all road patrol, everybody has that at least that CIT stuff, which is a great foundational tool
Yeah.
to learn to work with people with mental illnesses or other crises they go through. I mean, there's so many disabilities out there that we are not we don't go over that in the academy, right?
Right.
You get
Yeah.
the bare minimum.
Sure.
So it's anything that's extra. But I always encourage people, I'm sure you do the same, to go out on your own and do more training if you want to be the best that you can be.
Yeah.
um Hence jujitsu and everything else, right?
Right.
And
Exactly. Yeah. And speaking of jujitsu, so you're a blue belt
I'm a
and
blue belt.
and you're training, are you at Henzo Gracie Fort Lauderdale?
Yes, sir.
So
Enzo
that
Gracie Lado. Yeah, I've been training now approximately 5 years.
that's awesome.
Um, I've been with Henzo so I started at another location first. I'll give you this quick story. So I started in 2019, and so at that time I'm 37 years old, and
So you started
I
late like me. Yeah, same thing.
I
I started
started
at
late.
35. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I played baseball my whole life growing up. I had you heard the expression like a cup of coffee in the big leagues. I had a
Mhm.
cup of coffee in a small college that you never heard of, right?
Right.
So, um, but my first like physical arts was boxing, and I never competed. I just would train a lot and I would spar a lot just to kind of be in shape and know how to defend myself. This is way before I became a police officer. And I had shoulder surgery. I banged up my shoulder sparring. I had torn my labrum, the whole thing. So that was the end of
Mm.
sparring and whatnot. I still have a heavy bag in my garage. I like to, still, you never want to forget how to throw a punch, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the jujitsu came about like a lot of people. I kept hearing Joe Rogan talk about it, right? I kept hearing like cops talk about it because at this point in 19, I'm already 8 years into my career.
Mm.
And I'm sure it's fine. I can talk about this now, but we had an altercation at work, and you know how it is. If you're active and you do the job right, you're gonna have your eyes here and there. God willing, nothing comes of it.
Yep.
But I had an eye. It was an altercation where we had to get physical, and at that time I used a little bit of boxing that I knew,
Hmm.
and nothing came out of the IA investigation, but it freaked me out enough
Hmm.
that I was like, wait, let me revisit like this Joe Rogan, what's he talking about? You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean I
Right.
can control somebody without like hitting
Striking.
them,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So that's how it started. So I start in 2019. I go about 7 months, not knowing I had a herniated disc in my cervical spine.
Oh, wow.
Okay. I always say I don't think that jujitsu was the cause. Definitely didn't help, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So 7 months into just starting, I was like a two-stripe white belt. I have spine surgery in January of
Whoa.
2020.
Wow.
Okay. So I was out of jujitsu for a year and a half. Okay, at that time was literally the follow-up appointment where I was cleared to go back to working out, baby stepping it. That was the day down here in South Florida, all the gyms closed because of the
Yeah,
pandemic.
COVID came
So
in.
what?
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so just my luck. Um, but anyway, so I was without jujitsu for a year and a half, thinking like, I don't know how smart this is to come back to this, whatever. But I was missing it. And I'll be completely honest, where I was training before, great school, but I didn't feel like I was part of like the group yet or the culture of it. I
Sure.
felt kind of like an outsider. I was going at night. I don't know how it is in your school, but typically around here, I know at my school now, at night you get more of the younger crowd that probably wants to compete and whatnot.
Hmm.
And so I didn't. Bottom line is, I didn't love jujitsu at that time. I thought it was a need for the
Yeah.
job. So it kept eating away at me. Obviously, when I go back to work, I've got some like self-conscious, like, doubts, right? Like, am I good to go back to work? Am I physically, doctor says I'm good, but I have an artificial disc in my neck. Am I physically good?
Right. To go 100% if something happens. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So a year and a half later, so it was May of 21. I had met the head professor, Juan Rodriguez, head professor at Henzo Forlago. I had met him once in my previous journey before surgery in an open mat. And I remember just loving the vibe over
Yeah.
at Fort Lauderdale. It's about a 30-minute drive from me. The other school that I had started with was closer. But I remember loving the vibe. And so when I'm revisiting, like, I got to go back to jiu-jitsu. I got to figure this out. And I happened to check the schedule, and Fort Lauderdale had a 6 a.m. class. And I'm like, perfect, because I
Yeah.
can do it early in the morning, for working people like us.
Sure.
And I remember what a cool vibe. And at the same time, sorry, I'm going all over the place. Stop me whenever
No,
you
that's
get
fine.
this. Um, at the same time, I had a buddy I'm part of the Defenders Motorcycle Club. Okay.
Okay.
And I have a buddy of mine who's a veteran, and he wanted to go get into jujitsu, and he gets sponsored by We Defy.
Oh, yeah. Heard of them.
Okay.
Yes. Mhm.
Big fan of We Defy.
Yeah.
And that was another thing at the time where I'm like, man, I wonder if they have something like that for police officers. And I find Adopt a Cop.
Adopt a cop. Yeah.
So now I know the school I want to go back to. I got to Adopt a Cop. I email poor Professor Rodriguez, right? Like, hey, you're not going to remember me, but I remember you. You were super cool. Your school's awesome. Not only do I have all these issues that I want to come back to, that I would like to talk to you about, but I also have this program, right, that I want to like see if maybe you're into, right? So Professor says, hey, come on down, we'll talk about it. And I'm thinking, we set up a day, and I'm thinking we will talk after class or something like that. This dude is so cool, man. He opens up the gym just so we can sit on his couch and talk.
Oh, that's
Okay.
awesome. Yeah.
And every concern that I had, because I'm like, look, like, it was spine surgery, and I'm concerned about like forward rolls during
Mhm.
warm-ups, and okay, don't do them. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. You know what I mean? So
Right.
and I remember that when I'm sitting with him talking about all this stuff, he's got the pamphlet of Adopt a Cop on the table, all the paperwork. And he's like, by the way, I love this program. I'm on board. I think it's awesome. I'm a
Oh,
big
that's cool.
supporter of you cops. And I'm like, oh my God, perfect. So I was like, this was meant to be. I go back. The
Hmm.
first day I go to class, he's got the Adopt a Cop flag framed up on the wall. I'm like, this place is for me, man. This is
That's
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. That's
And to be
cool.
clear,
Yeah.
he's got nothing else on the wall but the big Henzo logo. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that just the support that I felt, and I'm sure with your school as well. When you have a close knit group,
Yeah.
I mean, you see these people more than a lot of your family, because I
Hmm.
train 4 days a week. So it's just become a great group. We got the group chat. We bust balls like every other group chat, right? But
Sure.
um, I always say, man, that there's very few guarantees in life. You know, you can go to work, have a great day, have a bad day, right? You can, you know, have a good day with your spouse or have a bad day. But I am guaranteed when I wake up early and I go to jujitsu, I'm gonna have an amazing time. I'm gonna laugh with my friends. I'm
Hmm.
gonna smile. And by the way, I'm gonna learn some cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
you know, and you're never gonna regret it.
Yeah.
Unless you get really hurt, and then maybe, you know, but
Right.
yeah,
Exactly.
you know,
But it
but
sounds like you found the right place, and that's a big part of it too. And yeah, finding the right
matter of
place, the right
fact,
people. Yeah,
what are the odds
that's
of that,
awesome.
right? Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the main reason kind of we're both police officers. We're both, we both train jujitsu. We both kind of promote, the message of how important jujitsu is for police officers. But I kind of found you because you kind of came on my feed because of your book, Officer Danny Always Keeps Us Safe.
Yep.
So you created this book because you're an SRO working in the schools now.
Yep. Here it
Yes,
is.
there
Yep.
it is.
Yep.
Nice. And so let's just kind of go to the beginning, a little bit about your journey, because I know you were an educator before. I think you
I
were a school
was.
teacher before. So how did that kind of, transition from education to law enforcement happen?
So I didn't have any intentions of being a police officer at all. I
Mm.
grew up in South Florida, late 80s, 90s, right? So it was like the cool thing to not like police.
Sure.
Okay. Um, a little bit different than this generation because I always say like I would, I thought it was like a Hispanic Tupac, but if that got pulled over, I was super respectful because my parents
Sure.
taught me better, right?
Mm.
And I was really happy teaching, but my goal wasn't to stay teaching. I wanted to be an administrator.
Mm.
So I go to grad school. I'm hitting the books like I was go 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 go. Mind you, wife and three little ones at the time.
Yeah.
And my fifth year teaching, um, it just I get into this program that was for administrators, and almost immediately I was like, "Whoa, this is a little bit more political than I thought.
Mm.
I don't like this. I don't like that." At the same time, I got into, and I'm very open about this. There's nothing you can't ask me. I got into one disagreement with my boss.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm big on respect. This is the way I was raised. I felt she disrespected me in front of people. I didn't take kindly to that. Also, this is 27, 28-year-old Danny, not 43
Yeah.
year old Danny, right?
Sure. Sure.
And and my last year was just I was miserable.
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, for about a couple of years, then there was a bakery. They have since changed owners because the old lady passed away. But there was a Cuban bakery nearby, near the school, near where I live. I live very close to I live in the community where I used to teach. So
Yeah.
I live in a community called Silver Shores. I taught at Silver Shores Elementary, to give you an
Okay.
idea.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and there's a bakery nearby, and that old lady became almost like the grandma I never had. Okay. And it was the only place in South Florida, very populated. I say it was like a Cheers. Everybody knew each other.
Yeah.
So like I got my realtor from
Mhm.
there. Like you would know like the local businessmen and a lot of police officers from Miramar would go there for their morning coffee, and I'd
Sure.
go when I got to know a lot of the officers. And in years getting to know them, just talking and whatnot, they would tell me, man, I think that you would be a really good police officer. I'm like, oh, stop it. Y'all just being nice, whatever, whatever. But going back to that fifth year of teaching where now I'm miserable
Right.
and they keep getting in my ear. I'm like, man, maybe I can do this. And I always say it this way, and but it's true. I told my wife I should have been a cop. I should have been a cop. And then I'm like, wait a minute. At the time I was 28, 29 years old, and I'm like,
Still got
no,
time.
maybe I should be a cop.
Hmm.
And that became, no, I'm gonna be a cop. And I always give a lot of credit. You know all the stats, so I won't bore you with them of not only divorce rates for police officers, but divorce rates from police officers that were something else when they got married and then they
Yes.
transfer over,
Hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So I always give credit where credit is due. My wife said, go for it. That's what you want to do. I want you to be happy, you
No,
know?
that's great. Yeah.
And I made the transition. I always am appreciative of those cops, those older guys that I would see at the bakery because they gave me that push. And 15 years later, here I am.
No, that's great. And yeah, I was kind of wondering how you made the transition. So yeah, that kind of explains it.
Hmm.
And it was meant to be. Now you're in the spot you're supposed to be in. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So let's get into the book a little bit. What kind of inspired you to write the book? Where'd you kind of come up with this idea?
So I stay in touch with a lot of my former colleagues. I already have a group chat, and they're all like, 20-year veteran, women teachers, and because they were very nice to me when I taught, and I was like the little brother, or nephew to a lot of these, women, and sometimes we don't, like some people that you don't talk to all the time, but you
Mhm.
keep in touch enough,
Sure.
and I I started to get frustrated not only with all the active shooters that we have going on.
Right.
As an SRO, we have like lockdowns, drills and whatnot. You got to do them now monthly and all that stuff.
Sure.
Um, it's not that because I think that I'm special, but I have pride in what I do. So I don't worry about what happens at my school because I'm there,
Yeah.
and I don't feel no one's going to train more than I do. But
And you take your
having
job serious. Yeah, it's important. Yeah.
yeah, but I remember getting frustrated when I would hear about my kids' school and when they would have lockdown drills. And I remember one day, you know, my son telling me, my little one, like, no, Dad, we were under the table. And I'm like, it's not a tornado drill, buddy.
Right.
And like, well, that's what they said so the bottom line was that through my experiences as a parent, as an SRO, I still obviously, I work in the school.
Sure.
I still keep in contact with a lot of teachers, not only from my past, but from my present. And I empathize with them because they didn't go to school for this. They're tasked now with teaching this subject matter that they were not e-
Right. They're not the police, and it's not their job to be the police. They're not in
exactly
charge of, safety and security. They're in charge of, educating children. Right. Yeah.
exactly. And so, I found that what can I do? And so the idea popped up. I had a buddy of mine actually from jiu-jitsu who helped me kind of like, put my ideas on paper and think of it as a reality. And I don't have a lick of sales experience. I'm not a
Mhm.
salesperson at all, but I do know you have to have a need. And so the first thing I did is I reached out to all those, my former colleagues. Hey, what are you guys using to help you teach lockdown drills? Because they teach little ones,
Yeah,
where I'm
especially
at.
for the younger kids, maybe high school, they
Yeah,
kind of understand what's going on, but grammar school or K through 8, that could be a, scary experience for them. Yeah.
exactly. Because I'm an SRO at an alternative high school. So
Okay.
I'm not an SRO with little ones, but all
Hmm.
my former colleagues, again, they teach the little ones. And I had asked them, do you guys have anything to help you teach this stuff? Because I think that I'm sure, I don't know how it is in Chicago, but if you have a good school resource officer who's gonna take the lead on that, fantastic.
Yes.
But shocker, not SROs are not every cop, right? Like,
Right.
and I've heard you enough to where we're similar in that. Man, look, I couldn't be proud of what we do, but I'm the
Yeah.
biggest cop critic you're gonna find.
Yeah.
Okay, for those that don't train, for those that are lazy, for
Hmm.
those that treat people wrong,
Yeah.
and so if you don't have a good officer at your school and you're a teacher, you're left clueless.
Yeah. And that happens. They
So
just sit in the office and they don't want to do nothing. I get it. Yeah. Hey,
exactly.
and they're all over the country. I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So the immediate response from my former colleagues was like, no, do you have something? And then I'm like, yeah, I might.
Right. Yeah.
And I did the first draft. I sent it to a select group of people, not too many. You know how it is, you don't want too many opinions, right?
Sure. Sure.
And not everybody is for everything. And there's something I'm teaching my kids now. They're getting a little older, but it's a silly example. But like I say it this way, like if I want to figure out how to get bigger triceps, I'm not asking my mom. And my
Right.
mom is awesome, but she's not well versed on that, right?
Yeah. You go
So
to somebody that specializes more in that. Right.
exactly,
Yeah. Right.
exactly. So I made the first draft. I sent it to select teachers that I knew would be honest with me. Got their feedback, plugged it in, worked on it, um, and then it was on from there. And they really liked it. I created the SAFE acronym, which was I wanted something easy for kids to remember.
Sure.
And yeah, I mean, it just came out at the end of April. I'm very, and again, I'm sure you are as well. I'm very competitive within myself.
Mhm.
Um, every month I look at like the sales reports, and my wife's like, "Oh, baby, that's good," and I'm like, "That's trash. Like, I haven't even gotten started."
Right.
You know,
Should be
and
better. Right.
yeah, it
We
should
could
be
do better.
better.
Yeah.
But again, going back to jujitsu or the gym or anything else, I'm well versed in the fact that everything there's no finish line,
That's
and
true.
it doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
And so. I'm just trying to spread the word as much as possible. It was heartbreaking this past week with the
Yeah, it's
active
terrible.
shooter
Yeah,
in Minneapolis,
yeah,
and I put a comment there on one of my stories, and I wanted to be careful because I like how on the gram, again, which I'm new to it, but I like that I feel like, my chief can see that and I'm being honest, but nothing that's gonna bother him.
sure.
My parents could look at it and be proud. I'm
Right.
not there to argue. I'm not there to pick fight with
And
people. I'm
get
not there to get
political and yeah, right.
exactly.
Yeah,
But I had to kind of hold myself back because I was really angered by the latest active shooter. And the same way that we connected and I've connected with other people, for every one of you guys that responds, and I'm so grateful that you're willing to have me talk about these things. There's 10 that ignore me.
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And but then you see like this happen, and then everybody's, hashtag this and hashtag that and prayers for them and pray. And I get that. But my whole philosophy in life in general is to be proactive, not reactive.
Right.
And here I am, I'm trying to I don't want to talk about gun control, man. That's I mean, where are we gonna get with that, you know?
Mhm.
I don't want to talk obviously mental illness is something, but I'm not trying to, solve like the world's problems. Let's just give the kids a tool that in this harsh reality they have to live in,
Mhm.
give them an easy plan they can follow. So when, if God forbid there's an emergency, they know what to do. That's all I'm trying to do,
Yeah.
because when I remember I had I had a meeting with the publishing company, and I'm talking to my wife afterwards. My wife and I, very honest household here with each other, with the kids. And I tell my wife, which I believe, still, and I tell her, listen, if I can help one kid,
Yeah.
one, it's worth it to me.
Sure.
And she said, I'll never forget it. She says, yeah, that's great, but you're not going to do this for one kid. You're going to do it for many. And I don't want you to feel bad that you want the book to do well, that you want to spread the word and help as many as you can. And I go, no, absolutely. But, thank God I don't need a dime from the book.
Right.
I don't want to be famous if you tried. I want to be of service. I try to, I think you've seen my gram and all that stuff, but the way I raise my kids, and I know for some people it sounds corny, I want to be of service to as many people as I can in as many ways as I can,
Yeah.
and so I've gotten some good feedback from it. I haven't gotten, to me, I'm not even starting. I haven't even started. It's unfortunate that I feel like the book will still be important 5 years from now because
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
don't see active shooters going away anytime
No.
soon.
And
And,
unfortunately, we've been talking about this for, it seems there's a few every year and it resurfaces and it's yeah, it's something that's been going on for quite a while and yeah, it's unfortunate. Yeah.
you have little ones?
No, no kids. Sorry. No
Oh,
kids.
good for
Yeah.
you, buddy.
Yeah. I'm married, but no kids. I have a fat French bulldog.
Oh,
It's
there you go.
yeah, so yeah, no kids, but I can understand like you send your kids to school and you should be worried about their safety, they got enough to worry about and what's going on in the day-to-day world and a school should be a safe place for children. I mean, and
I
adults.
got
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I got one more. He's the baby. He's a
Yeah.
senior now, but man, I was like when they were little, it would freak me out. And
Yeah.
so then it happened to be my first year as an SRO, which was 2017, 2018, is when Stoneman Douglas happens that February.
Yeah.
Stoneman Douglas is 35 minutes from me,
Sure.
so that really, really hit home.
Hmm.
And it speaks to also Stoneman Douglas is in a very, very good neighborhood because I'm
Yeah.
sure you get the same thing, right? Like, oh, nothing happens in that neighborhood,
Right.
and no, it happens everywhere.
Yeah.
And so that really, really hit home. Again, it was my first year as an SRO. Um, it's just a scary time, and I
Yeah.
hate that kids have to grow up with that
Yeah.
because we didn't have that at all. I
No.
was a junior when Columbine happened, and that was the
Yeah.
only one.
I think I was just out of high school when Columbine happened, or out of high school for a few years. But yeah, it wasn't a thought or a concern when I was in high
Yeah,
school. Yeah, it just wasn't because it didn't happen. In the early '90s, I went to high school, so
yeah.
yeah, but you're an SRO and you take it seriously. A lot of people. in some departments, they look at the SRO as kind of the retirement spot. It's like, "Oh, I got 5 years left. I'm just going to go chill out in the schools." But it's actually a very important position and it's a needed position in a lot of these schools, to keep people safe. Yeah. So it's important. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because in Miramar, it just happened to be that way where kind of I got into the unit with another one of my buddies.
Hmm.
He's at another campus. Um, but kind of since then, so this is my ninth year now. I would
Oh,
say the
wow.
last 9 years especially, you're seeing an influx of a lot of younger officers that
Yeah.
are willing to do the work, at least
Hmm.
in Miramar. I don't know if it's because of all the active shooters going on or whatnot, but I love that. Even now, I teach new hires, and I love when I get a new young police officer and they tell me like, no, I want to go to the schools. I'm like, awesome, because they want to, God forbid something happens, they want to be those guys that are there,
Yeah.
and so in Miramar, we have SWAT guys that are SROs. We have, fellow negotiators. We
That's
got,
awesome. Yeah.
I mean, young guys that if God forbid something pops off, we going,
Right.
because that was the
Yeah.
stigma before, and that
Yeah.
bothered me, that it was, but it was true. It was the SRO was like, no, man, you go there when you're gonna
Yeah. Just,
retire.
right. Exactly.
Just
Right.
coast the last couple of
But you
years.
you want to, an in shape, active officer that knows what they're doing and that knows how to handle and respond to a situation too. That's fantastic. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So like with the book, have you seen how it changes like how teachers or students react to these drills like firsthand in some of the schools?
I've gotten some good feedback. The tricky
Hmm.
thing, and I kind of knew this going in as well, that this was going to be a challenge. School boards have to kind of like approve
Hmm.
what the plan is,
Sure.
and and so I know that there's been teachers that have reached out to me and they'll be like, yeah, I wanna implement this, but I have to figure out the way I do it because the school board's using this plan or that
Right.
plan, you
Hmm.
know. Um, that's why I say, I mean, my biggest audience, I guess, when I thought about the book, obviously kids, but through teachers. But I'm seeing a lot of parents take the lead and get it themselves
Oh, that's
and
great.
and
Yeah.
go over it with themselves.
Sure.
Um, you know there there there's a lot of hurdles to get something approved to the school board.
Yeah.
So what it's been so far, at least, is teachers just taking the lead on their own, coming up with, this, I'm gonna use a safe plan and make it work,
Hmm.
and that's that. You know what I'm saying? Because again, I don't have a political bone in my body. It's a whole hurdle I'm not willing to jump over right now, and
Yeah.
but I appreciate that, like, again, parents who want to take the lead on this kind of stuff. You
Yeah,
know.
and different school boards, different communities, every little political network is different and getting it in there. I could see that. Yeah, that can be difficult. But yeah, parents could just go out and buy the book themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
then
I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
you're
yeah.
good
The
to go.
the 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 book is it's on Amazon. It's probably the easiest, but it's on barnesandnoble.com. Anywhere you can buy books online, it's there. It was pretty cool the first time I saw it, like in Korea and Germany. I'm
Yeah,
like, oh, that's pretty cool.
that's awesome.
But and I always make a point to, I did a lot of traveling recently, and I always have a couple copies, in my book bag,
Mhm.
or sorry, my tactical backpack.
Right.
And
Yes. Yes.
and if I see a kid that, I see with his parents, and I just, introduce myself and give them the book, and I got to be careful with that because again, some parents, they just rather avoid the topic altogether.
Right.
I get it to an extent. Again, the way my wife and I raised our kids, a little bit different than a lot.
Right.
I always say there's parents that teach their kids to avoid the storm. We raised our kids to, no, here's the storm coming. Let me teach you how to get through that shit.
Yeah.
You know.
And it's, there has to be a point where you realize like, all right, these kids are old enough, we got to be honest with them, give them a little more, and do it carefully, obviously, but you can't shield them from, completely everything. You got to, let them kind of know how the world works a little bit too. Yeah.
Let me tell you, John, there wasn't even until they get older, man. I always
I
saw this.
know.
I always saw this little example because my, as men, dads typically are the more, tough ones or whatnot. And I've
Hmm.
certainly been that. But to give you an example of my wife, who is absolutely motherly and nurturing and all that stuff. But I always give the example of my little one played baseball for 10 years. And let me just give you, like, if he at, let's say, 8, 9 years old, he didn't make a travel team that he wanted to make. My wife would tell him, "Hey, buddy, do you know why you didn't make that travel team? Because you're not good enough."
Right. Yeah.
And she would say
Yeah.
this
So just
word.
be honest with him. Hey.
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
would say, she would use the word mediocre. She said, "You're mediocre."
Hmm.
But the good news is you have two options. You can stay mediocre, or you
Hmm.
can work your butt off, get better, and have better results.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how rewarding it was when he would work hard and make those teams. You, I tell people that story that they look at me like I'm a child abuser.
Yeah.
Okay. But how many on the job, whether you're an SRO or not, I know you're on the road, right? Like,
Yeah.
how many times do you come in contact with parents of kids that have done terrible things, and the parents are excusing their behavior?
Right. Oh, yeah.
It's
You
ridiculous.
get it all
So
the time.
a
Yeah.
simple example like sports. What am I
Yes.
supposed to tell my kid? No, Bobby,
Right.
that you didn't make the team because the coach doesn't like you. No, that's BS.
Hmm.
You got to be accountable. I tell my kids to be accountable for you.
Yeah.
There's a saying I always say. I didn't make it up. I heard it actually from Tua, our quarterback down here in Miami,
Hmm.
and I love it. I think he's a great kid. Kid, yeah, I'm old enough to call professional athletes kid.
Right.
Um, he said once, and it stuck with me. All the great things I have in my life, I've gotten by the grace of God and the help of others.
Mhm.
And all the bad things that I've gotten in my life are 100% my fault. And I love that. I got that ingrained in my kid's head. I go, if you think of life that way, you're gonna do just fine, because
Yeah.
you're holding yourself accountable.
Hmm.
You're eliminating excuses.
Yeah.
And again, in our world, no man, I didn't make sergeant because they have. And look, sometimes that crap happens. I get it,
Yeah. There
but
are some
also,
politics involved, but yeah, a lot of it's on you. Right.
yeah, but
Did you study
also,
hard enough? Did you put in the time? Did you put in the work? You have to look at your actions too and what caused it, right?
yep,
Exactly.
we
Yeah,
see it all the time.
I think that personal responsibility is super important. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, so let's get to the jujitsu and kind of law enforcement stuff. We'll talk about that. We kind of already talked about like your introduction into Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Like
Yep.
you kind of talked about that story. And then, currently, like kind of what role does jiu-jitsu play in your job as a police officer?
The confidence that if and when things have to go down, I'll tell you, I've been a cop 15 years. I have not got into 15 physical altercations. And I'm
Yeah.
very proud of that.
Mhm.
Again, when I teach the new hires, I tell them, don't be these idiots in the group of like 5, 6 officers. Yeah, bro, remember when I chased that guy and I beat him up and I did that? I'm like, how about be proud of how you de-escalate things, right?
Sure.
And be proud of the situations that you got on scene and you calmed them down. You didn't make them worse. We all know
Right.
those cops that when they get on scene and we've had to make that call, be like, no, no, hey,
Hmm.
you can go. I'm good. You
Yes.
know?
Yeah. You're just
So
gonna ratchet this up. We don't. Yeah. Exactly.
yeah, so I'm very proud that I haven't gotten into 100 fights.
Hmm.
However, another thing I always say, there gets to a point, there's no negotiator, Danny.
Yeah.
You get in my bubble, or God forbid you touch me, we're gonna have a problem.
Yeah.
But you have to train for those moments.
Yeah.
And again, I teach the SRO block for the new hires. I get into jujitsu so much that they think it's a
Yeah.
jujitsu class. You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Yeah.
Because
They're like,
it, it,
stop
it
talking about jujitsu, right?
it's
Yeah.
important though. It's
I think so.
important, and
Yeah.
and I always tell them, man, please don't be that guy. That, well, I'll use this and I'll use that, and I'm like, yeah, until I take it from you, and then
Right.
like, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
I had a buddy. I went to this past summer in Tahoe. I went to the Invictus law enforcement camp. Right,
Yes. Yeah.
it was amazing, and I took a buddy who's never trained a day in his life.
Hmm.
And I said, I want you to see. Now, it was a lot of drilling. It was literally 3 classes a day.
Yeah. And
Get
there's
tagged.
super high level people there too.
Yeah, oh
Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah.
told
Yeah.
him, I told
Yeah.
him, I said, you don't know these guys because it's not your world. These are some big dogs. Chad
Yeah.
Lyman,
Yeah.
Bradley
Jay
Barnes,
Wadsworth, Brad Barnes.
Jason,
Yeah. All those
exactly.
guys are like, yeah, the
All
top.
those.
Yeah. Right.
And, it was pretty much 3 classes a day, a lot of drilling. But when we have a minute or two, I'd kind of mess with him and show him what he didn't know.
Right,
And again,
exactly,
I've only
right.
been training 5 years. What do I know, right? But but enough to
But
show him
5 years
like,
is a huge difference from zero. Yes.
right. So
Yeah.
so I'd get him in certain positions, and I'd be like, pretend you have a gun belt. Grab your gun right now.
Mhm.
Oh, you can't because you have no hands, right?
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
so this is why it's important. And another thing, at the end of the week, I asked him, I go, hey man, who did you notice? Who asked the most questions the whole week? It was all the black belts.
Yeah. Yes.
The one thing you thought like they'd be, no, I got this, we're good. They ask the most questions. Because
Hmm.
it's always learning. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So
Yeah.
it's important. I have, again, not many, few and far between, but I have gotten into physical altercations
Yeah.
where, and I always tell my colleagues, like I told my kids, man, if you don't want to train or you don't want to know, all these things. My youngest one got a blue belt and then he just didn't want to continue it. Um, but I always tell cops, if you don't care about jiu-jitsu, you don't want to do it, I can't force you. If nothing else, please learn a good Kimura.
Right.
A
Yeah.
Kimura will help you. So, I mean, someone grabs your gun or getting somebody out of the car. Again, I know there's a lot of other,
Yeah.
ways to do it, but if nothing else, a good solid Kimura, and I've done several out
Yeah.
in the street. That's like my go-to in the street. I've done a sitting Kimura, a standing Kimura, whatever, and 100% effective. You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? So I tell my colleagues, man, if you know nothing else,
Right.
learn this. But it's
And
important, and not only for the physical defend myself thing, the mental, which I'm sure we can get into.
yeah. And like I tell officers too, because I teach fundamentals Monday and Wednesday, and then I teach law enforcement class on Friday nights. And I said, if you're not into jujitsu, into the whole sport aspect, and you don't want to, get 100% involved, can you do one class a week? Even if you don't come 4 days, 4 times in a month, maybe 3 times, that enough, just taking that one week. I've seen officers improve greatly just taking one class a week, the law enforcement class, and just learning some of the basic fundamental stuff. But it's a law enforcement based system. I'm kind
Hmm.
of, teaching the effective fitness combatives, curriculum because I'm a EFC level 1 instructor. So, but just that alone can make a huge difference in a law enforcement officer's life and a police officer's life. So, and I've seen that happen. So I
It's
get it,
four
people. Yeah.
hours a week more than everybody else. I mean,
Yes.
4 hours a month
Right.
more than everybody else.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it definitely makes a difference. And I thought at first, like, well, that's not going to be enough training. And obviously the guys that take, or men and women that take fundamentals and the law enforcement class really, kind of
Right.
pick it up really fast. But because the, fundamental jujitsu kind of gives you the skill set you need to do the other stuff.
Of course.
But yeah, I'm always out here promoting it, I've actually given blue belts to police officers, which, makes me super happy, and I start them on their journey, and I want to continue doing that. And like you said, I've been a black belt for almost a year now, so new black belt, but
Yes.
I've, barely even scratched the surface. It's just the beginning for me, and the learning never ends. Whether it's blue belt, purple, or black, it's a continue process. There is no finish line, and you got to keep training, and you got to stay ready, no matter what. And so, which leads me to the next question. We kind of talked about this, and I think it should be. But do you think, jujitsu should be mandatory for police officers, either
Absolutely.
trained in the department or outside of the department?
Absolutely. I'm
Hmm.
sure because I've heard you talk about it before. I actually did a lot of research going back to Marietta, Georgia,
Yeah,
and what they're doing. They were like
they
the
got the
first big
stats.
one.
Yeah,
I mean, and they gave us all the numbers for us,
yeah, the
to
data
bring to
backs
our
it up.
agency.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I know in Miramar, it's been a long, a buddy of mine is working on it. He's higher up, and we're trying. I know it's hard to kind of grandfather in, the old veterans that got
Hmm.
it all figured out. But I love the idea of mandatory once a week for new hires.
Yeah.
And to that point about the once a week, it was funny because in that trip in Tahoe, around that time, Tom DeBlas posted something about one of his students. I don't know if you saw this, where he mentioned he was going to give a black belt to one of his students after 16 years. And
Mm,
he said this particular student could only, because of work, his family, and whatnot, traveling, he could only train once a week.
mm,
But he trained once a week every week for 16
16
years.
years and was consistent
And
with
I
it. Yeah.
saw that when I was in Tahoe, and
Mm.
I remember showing my buddy, man, like, look, man, like, bro, you can make 1 hour a week, bro.
Yeah.
You know?
You can make the time. Absolutely. Yeah. You
And again,
yeah.
people, sometimes with their excuses of no, I always tell people, you're not gonna out excuse me, man.
No. You
My
got
youngest
three
now is,
kids, you're
yeah,
married,
exactly.
you've got other stuff going on. Everybody else does too. It's part of it. You have to make time. You really do.
Yeah.
You have to make time. It's not an excuse. Yeah.
Not
So,
only for jujitsu, but for exercise and all
yeah.
that. It is our life, man. We got one. I did a reflection post earlier today where I was talking about like
Hmm.
we have one life to live, man.
Yeah.
And like people, have a lot of excuses and they're dragging ass through life. I wish I had more hours in the day. I
I do
mean,
too,
I
man.
just want to do more shit,
I know. Yeah.
and so
No, I get it. And let's go back to Invictus for a second because if people don't know what Invictus is, it's basically this law enforcement collective, and you can go to invictus.com. They have you know a list of gyms throughout the country which are law enforcement friendly, and there's also hundreds and hundreds of other gyms that are law enforcement friendly, like Henzo Gracie where you train, and
yep.
my gym. So a lot of them do really like training with police officers. But if you look at the Invictus lineup, all the law enforcement officers that are there, are all, high level black belts that have been promoting this for 10, 15, 20 years, and have really got the kind of best, aspects of jujitsu and grappling that work for law enforcement. And that's been a big transition for me too, to kind of go from sport to law enforcement weapons-based grappling. So what was
Right.
kind of like your biggest eye opener or your biggest takeaway from the Invictus out there?
That I don't know anything.
Yeah, right,
Right,
right.
right. No, it's just honestly, my biggest takeaway wasn't even this move or that move. It was what I mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
I'm like, man, the black belts are the ones asking all the questions. And again, part of
yes.
that I think, is they're not afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
But I love so
And most of those
again,
guys are retired guys that like really don't even, they could just be off retired
yes.
somewhere and they're like, no, I want to keep promoting this. I've been doing this for 25 years. I want to continue to see police officers do that. So these are really dedicated, men and women that are, really think this is important. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and it struck me because again, so only 5 years training, but I take a lot of, and it's a completely different endeavor, but I take the same principles or the same mindset rather of jujitsu with that I have worked out for almost 30 years now. My dad
Mm.
introduced me when I was 14, and so the mindset of there's no quick fix,
Yeah.
like so I don't stress over like, I think it's good to have goals, but
Yeah.
nothing that's gonna like make it negative for me. As far as belts or anything like that, I'm in it for
Yeah.
the long haul. But
Like how
again,
long did it take you to learn boxing? I'm sure it took a long time to learn good
right,
footwork
but
and
also when
stance
I
and yeah.
yeah, but
Right.
also when I'm a scrawny 14-year-old,
Yeah.
how long did it take me to fit into my t-shirts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You
Right,
know what I'm
right.
saying? Like
Yeah.
it took I couldn't wish upon
Yeah.
a star and then just
Just
wait.
bulk
No,
it up a little bit. Yeah,
I
exactly.
had to put the work in.
Yeah.
So, and again, I played baseball my whole life. So again, like I can't make this play right now, or I can't hit a damn curveball. Well, work at it, and then you get better and better
Yeah.
and better. So I'm not competitive that way as far as on the mats. A 25-year-old who maybe I have a year or two on him, but like it's different. You have to. I try to compare myself to myself. Am I
Right.
better today than I was yesterday?
Yes.
And I keep it simple that way, thank God. And
Absolutely.
I don't have an ego like that. I
Yeah.
think an ego is the biggest reason, though, because I've heard you talk about this. I think
Hmm.
the ego is the biggest reason why cops don't train,
100% agree. They don't want to come in and get humbled. 100% agree. Yeah.
and not by a 15-year-old kid.
Yeah.
No way.
Right.
No, I'm big and tough. I can't get
Right.
tapped out by a 15-year-old.
Or a 50-year-old guy like me and they're
Yeah,
25 and they're
yeah,
like,
yeah,
what? This guy's
yeah,
50. He's like not even strong, and I'm like, okay, let's drink, and
yeah,
then they're like, well, I'm not coming back. Yeah. So, but
yeah.
they realize, yeah.
One of my first instructors, he was retired a federal agent, and he would almost annoyingly, I would get pissed off after a while because he would every single class, and I get what he was doing, and it worked. He would tell me, Danny, you could be great, don't quit. Most cops quit, and he got that in my head every class. Danny, most
Mhm.
cops quit, don't quit. Most cops quit, don't quit. I'm like, dude, I'm not most cops, and
Yeah.
he goes, okay, good. But it's true, and you've seen some that they'll try, and then they get humbled.
Yeah.
And again, their ego takes a shot,
Yeah.
and they can't take that kind of rejection. I heard it best one time when jujitsu is for people who are good with sucking at stuff.
Yeah.
You
For a
know,
long time. Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. To
Yeah.
just today an open mat. You know, I got to move on some. Or I almost had to move on somebody, and in my head, I got super happy for like a half a second. He proceeded to beat the shit out of me.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Hmm.
show me who was boss, right?
Right.
And instead of like getting down on myself, I'm like, this is awesome. I need to learn that. I got to work on this. And
Yeah.
so
One of my
yeah,
favorite training partners is a guy named Mike, and Mike, you know who you are. So we call him Big Mike at the gym, and he's I'd say 6'2", maybe 265, and I'm 5'11", maybe 175. So he's
mm,
almost 100 pounds heavier. Almost good 6 inches taller than me.
right,
But I love training with him because that's kind of my worst case scenario on the street, right? Somebody that's big, strong, heavy. So if I love that battle because in the gym, I could just tap and be like, okay, start over. But it gives me a challenge if I can use my jujitsu on him, get to a better position, stay on top, control him, then, I've won the battle. So, going against people like that, I think is just fantastic. I love it. I think it's a challenge to me. And then if he taps me a bunch of times, okay, fine,
yeah,
but we keep going. But, for me, I'm like, am I going to face anything harder than this on the street? And that's kind of so it's just making me tougher for that battle I could face. And
right,
I'm ready for that battle if it does happen because I've been there before, right?
exactly.
Yeah, in a safe
I
environment, I'm doing this stuff, right? So I love it. I love the challenge and I don't mind tapping and so it's just part of the game. I think it's great. So yeah.
We have our own version of Big Mike. It's Big Anthony. We call him Fish. It's a whole long
Okay.
story how he
Yeah.
got that name.
Everybody has
But
one, right?
but so so
There's a
so
guy that just
Anthony
destroys everybody, right?
and shout out to Anthony if you see this.
Yeah.
Anthony,
Nobody wants to
um,
go with them. They're like this. They're like, hey, no,
yeah, no, so
yeah.
so big dude from New York,
Hmm.
and I remember when he started, and I would tell him, man, when you learn some of this stuff with your size,
You're
man,
gonna be scared.
and
Yeah.
now he's my least favorite role, man.
Yes.
But I'll get him, and I'll tell him I'm that guy sometimes, depending on who it is, and if I have, if we're cool like that, I'm joking mid roll, and
Hmm.
and he'll get me in the worst spots, and I'll do the whole Deadpool, like I got you right where I want you, big boy,
Yeah.
that
When
kind of
you're
thing.
smothered inside because
Oh
you're like,
yeah, yeah.
ah,
This only
yeah.
gets worse for you, big guy.
Right. Exactly
But
right.
I will sometimes, tell him start mounted on me, and he's like, "You sure,
Mhm.
Papa?" And I'm like, "Start mounted on me,"
Yeah.
because that's my biggest fear for
That's
a
the
guy
worst.
your size.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, even if I'm uncomfortable for the 5 minute round, but
Yeah.
I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna
Say you
figure out.
say you tripped and fell in the street and all of a sudden this guy's on top
Yeah,
of you. And then, oh man, this is the worst, right? Exactly.
yeah, and I'm just gonna breathe. And I always tell people sometimes that like, you know, I may not be the most fun role sometimes because but I've had professors sometimes that federal agent I was telling you about, one of the compliments that he gave me that always stuck out to me wasn't a move that I made. It was, Danny, way to breathe, man, in that terrible spot that you've been in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're just breathing. Your head's not purple because my head would get usually
You're
purple.
staying
You
calm,
know,
you're working through it. Yeah.
and he
Sometimes
was so
that's
proud of
that's the
me
battle. Yeah, exactly right.
that
You
I
didn't
was just like,
panic.
yeah, I was on
Right.
my side, and I'm like that, and I'm just like,
Right.
and then I'm also thinking for us, I'm like, if this is in the street, I'm in a really bad spot, but my gun is on the concrete because I'm
Right.
righty. You're not
Yes.
getting it. So I'm
Yes.
just here. And if I'm waiting for backup, and that's worst case scenario, it's better than the
Yeah.
alternative, right?
And I kind of roll like that too as a police officer, and maybe other police officers do it too. I think of like, if I get into a position where I'm just kind of like maybe stalling a little bit or holding, I'm like, well, if I was in the street, this would be a real good situation. I've got
Mm-hmm.
both of his arms controlled, I got my knees up, or I'm framing, and I'm like, yeah, like this would keep me safe in the street, not technical stand up and get up. So I always kind of have that in the back of my head of like, if this were a street situation, how would it work? Even though it's sport jujitsu, but that's kind of always in my head too. So yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But going back to the original question, like absolutely should be mandatory. And again, we haven't even got into, and it's humongous for us police officers, the mental aspect of things.
Yes.
I'm
That's
tired of
yeah.
seeing all these cops kill themselves,
Yeah.
John.
I know.
I'm tired of it, man. And
I've
it
I've
always,
had I've had close coworkers commit suicide.
yeah,
And it's one day we turned around and, that person wasn't at roll call and they had, committed suicide the night before. And we're like, and it was one of the people that where you were like, no way possible this person did this. But I think Chicago is like a 60% higher suicide rate for officers than the rest of the country. And I think, just in general, I think the suicide rate for police officers is like 50% higher than the rest of the country. It's some crazy, absurd number, and it's unfortunate. Yeah,
And jujitsu helps in that. I was the
it does.
first one. I tell
Hmm.
people. I think you can tell already, right, from my messages of like, hey, should I do this? Should I like being prepared. I don't like,
Yeah.
and I like respecting whatever, the endeavor is. So I was that guy that before I started jujitsu, I called the professor, like, hey, etiquette wise, like, what do I need to know? I don't want to disrespect nobody, you
Hmm.
know, this, that, and the other. Plus, I went down the rabbit hole of YouTube, right? I'm sure we all been there.
Yeah.
And I start seeing all these videos, and amongst these, videos, I'm seeing no, it saved me from drug addiction. No, it made me a better person. It made me this. And I was kind of like skeptical. And I'm like, all right, calm down. Like it,
Right.
cool martial art, but I don't know about all that.
Hmm.
I can tell you it was January of 24th of last year. I want to say it was January 26th. I remember the date. I'm out with my wife, our weekly dinner dates, and my wife, who's never trained a day in her life. We're just talking during dinner, and she tells me how jujitsu saved our marriage. And I was like,
Mm.
what? We're going on 18 years married. And she said, yeah, listen, she said, you've always been a great guy, you're a great father, but you're so driven. And in the same things that have made you successful, you're very structured. If something got out of your little, way, you didn't cope well with it. It would kind of just
Yeah.
mess you up. So, you know, the kids and I sometimes have to be tactical of like, when do we talk to you and when do we ask you this? Because, where since you started jujitsu and she's never trained a day in her life. She's like, I don't know what it is about that thing, but you're so much, they call it in my house, we call it chill. You're so much, you're more chill.
Yeah, you're more chill. Yeah.
You're more chill. And we had a big construction thing a couple years ago in the house. We had to repipe the whole house,
Stressful. Yeah.
and my wife calls me randomly at work, and we're not those couples that it's worked for us. We don't really talk during the workday. We'll text, I miss you or can't wait to see you
Yeah.
or whatever. But we're not like checking in 50 times a day. Like
Right.
we like missing each other.
Right.
So she calls me one day randomly from work while we're going through all this stuff in the house, and I'm like, "Hey, babe, you okay?" And she goes, "Yeah, I just wanted to tell you that I love you and I thank you for the way that you are." Did I lose you? Oh, here we go.
No, I'm still there. Yeah.
I thank you for the way that you're handling this. I don't know about this jujitsu, like what it's doing, but you've been so cool, calm, and collect with all this craziness going on at the house. I'm talking about like
Mhm.
27 holes in the house. I mean, it was a disaster.
Yeah.
And she's like, it's made me more cool, calm, and collect. Where I feel like years
Yeah.
ago, before jujitsu, you would have gone crazy, would have made me go crazy. So
Yeah.
that in itself, despite or aside from the self-defense part of things, that doesn't help cops overall. Of course it does,
Yeah. It does. Yeah.
with everything we see and everything that we
Yeah.
have to go through. So
Absolutely.
make it
Yeah,
mandatory. Let's
like,
do it.
disclaimer, like if you need to go seek therapy, see a psychiatrist, absolutely do that. But this
Hmm.
could be, a definite benefit to it. I've talked to multiple officers that, say the same thing. And I'm a big proponent of it. And like during 20 and 2021 were some real tough years to be a police officer. And it was for me here in my hometown.
Yeah,
Very, very difficult to be a police officer. And then on top of that, I didn't have my training to go to because everything was closed down for a long time too. So
yeah,
those 2 years were like on top of like all the extra work stress plus not being able to train were like really bad for me. That whole like year and a half was like terrible. It was terrible. And getting back to training made a huge difference to me. So when it was like that kind of combination of the work was super stressful, protests going on all over, and then you remove the jujitsu from my life too, my kind of coping mechanism, my stress reliever, and my community outside of work. And those were 2 difficult years for me, and it made a big difference for me to get back to jujitsu and get on a regular schedule and start training again. So Yeah, I definitely noticed the difference myself. Absolutely.
It's crazy you say that because that time was very dark for me too because I was coming back from surgery.
Yeah, and you
And,
were
and
recovering from your neck surgery, right? Yeah.
yeah, and then when I go back again, I have like self-doubt physically. I'm like, okay.
Hmm.
Then down here in Miami, it wasn't so much a lot of protesting. It was just every call I go to, I'm being called a racist,
Yeah, it was
you
bad
know,
times.
and it
Yeah.
was a
Hmm.
mental toll because the schools were closed. So I'm on the
Yeah.
road.
And it was
And
hate the police everywhere. It was all over the country. Yeah, it was just that was going on.
yeah,
Yeah.
and then the whole COVID thing. And I I just felt really bad. I ended up finding out my testosterone was down the crapper,
Mm,
you
yeah.
know, and I mean, my wife will tell you, I hate this word. I think it's sometimes overused, but she will tell you I was going through a depression
Sure.
almost like, you know,
Yeah.
it was a tough time. So, but again, going back to training and all that stuff, I always say I do all the de-stressors, man. I ride the Harley, the
Yeah.
gym, a healthy marriage, you know, the jujitsu, but we need
Yeah.
all the good relationships. I've been more open as I've gotten older to, you know, I'm still strict about who's in my circle,
Sure.
but I've learned with more years in the job that, you know, we need though that one or two police friend.
You
And
do.
again, going back to
Yeah.
my wife will tell you, babe, like I can listen to you vent about this, and I don't know what you go through. I don't, you know, and she'll tell me, hey, you're due. Go with your boy, you know,
Yeah.
your
It's time for
fellow.
you to go train, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
or
Or go
go
bike ride or
get a
something. Yeah.
meal
Right.
with. I just did it on
Yeah.
Wednesday with one of my fellow negotiators. You
Hmm.
know, because not everybody can understand what we go through.
Yeah.
It's hard, and it's a choice.
Hmm.
I know you take pride in what you do. I take pride in what I do. We're
Yeah.
blessed. We choose to be there,
Yeah.
but man, can it get heavy, you
It
know?
can. Yeah. It can. And sometimes you're like, why am I doing all this extra? I could just do my job, chill, go home, and in the stress of that. But, I always think of it as, we're on the right path, we're doing the right thing, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And at the end of the day, it's helping other people, and I'm a firm believer in that. And
Absolutely.
yeah, and like you doing this book and putting in the extra work and all that stuff, and whether zero money comes out of it, as long as you change some, parents' lives, some kids' lives, that's well worth it. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier about the guys from Invictus and how they should be retired and all that, and that hit home because I always
Yeah.
tell my wife, how many guys in the job, right? Do you hear about like, no, I got this amount of years left, and I'm gonna be in the whole beach with a margarita thing drives me
Yeah.
nuts. I'm like,
You
I'm
got to
not
live
gonna
your
be.
life now. You got to do it now. Right.
Not only
Yeah.
that, but again, when I retire from the police department, I'm gonna figure out. I always said I'll go full circle. I want to go back into, and again, I teach at the agency. I'm not
Mhm.
used as much as I would like, and it's no shot at the agency because I'm at a school. It's very difficult to get, you know, for me to be out of there. Like if I'm, you know, and they do enough of that when I have negotiated training and stuff like that. But there has to be somebody at the school.
Yeah.
So
And the hours too. Yeah. Right.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So you know, I don't get used as an instructor as much as I would like, but I'm a teacher at heart, and I always
Hmm.
say when I retire, I don't care if it's jujitsu related, if it's the academy, if it's teaching English 101 at a
Hmm.
community college. I
Yeah.
want to be of sir. I know, God willing, I'm not going to need the money.
Right.
I don't want to be tied to something I don't want to do,
Right.
but I want to help the next generation in any way
Absolutely.
that I can.
Yeah.
There's something to that.
Yes.
There's something to and again, community. You know,
Yeah.
there's something to I love seeing these videos of Jiu-Jitsu grandma, right?
Yeah. That's
Like,
awesome.
come
Yeah.
on, man. What is your excuse? This
Right.
lady's out here doing it, man.
Yeah. She's
Like,
in her late 70s. She got her brown belt recently too. It's awesome.
it's so
Yeah.
awesome. With the whole gym thing, there's you know who Dick Van Dyke is,
Yeah.
right? Okay. People think I'm like obsessed with this guy, but you know, 99 years old.
Yeah.
And he's got the walker that he uses sometimes,
Hmm.
but he's dancing, he's singing,
Yeah.
mine is sharp,
Hmm.
and he always says it's because I've worked out for
Worked out his whole
75
life.
years.
Yeah. Exactly. And
And
taking care of
I
himself.
like
Yeah.
the example of him because not a guy that you see that's like super jacked,
Yeah.
a little bit on the thinner side, but he's
Yeah.
trained all those years.
Hmm.
And man, and stayed active. I don't want to be on a beach, man. I want to be of service to people. I want to help people, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So I think we have an amazing opportunity in our jobs. Again, I'm sure you feel similar when you see these officers come in and then you see them change
Yeah.
and they become these disgruntled guys. And I'm like, man, you know how what a great job we have, man, to help.
Hmm.
And it sounds corny and cheesy, and I get it, man, but what a great thing. And then when you have those victims that you helped years ago and they see you somewhere,
Right.
they email you and they remembered something, man,
Right.
that's priceless.
And I like to think too, like, why did I get this job 15 years ago? Why did I want to do these things? What were my goals then? I was ambitious then, and I should still have those same things. I need to remember why I got into this profession. Always, it's always different than what you think, the job, the day to day. And but you need to remember why you do this job and who you do it for and the importance of it too. Yeah, absolutely.
I just taught a class of 12 new hires. I put a post about it. It was last or 2 weeks ago. And again, because again, I teach the SRO curriculum, but then I leave room for Q&A, I
Mhm.
leave room for jujitsu and a bunch of things, and wherever the conversation goes organically. But I always tell them, think about how you feel right now. Right now, you're all sitting here. You're in your uniform, and
Mhm.
you cannot wait to get your FTO assignment, hit the streets, and do the Lord's work, right?
Right.
So why, when I see you on a major incident, whether I go as a negotiator or I'm working the road, on road patrol, why do I see you 3 years from now and you're already disgruntled or you're
Right.
complaining about this car or that call?
Mhm.
I had my first FTO tell me, that call that you go to with the annoying old lady, that could be your mom one day. That
Yeah.
could be your aunt, your
Right.
grandma. Be empathetic,
Yeah.
and empathy is a big thing for us negotiators. But
Hmm.
you know, have a heart, man. Be patient. You
Yeah.
know, I get it. It's tough. I get the next call's Holden. I get it. But remember why you're there. You
Yeah.
know,
Absolutely. 100% agree with that. Yeah, too. And sometimes you need to hit that reset button and go, okay, I've been doing it this way a little bit. I got to get back to doing it this way. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
yep.
So, yeah, I completely get that. But just to kind of wrap it up, because I think we kind of covered a lot, just some kind of quick rapid fire questions.
Yeah.
So you probably got some on jujitsu dummies too, maybe some of the same ones, but gi or no gi?
Oh my God, I got that. I love both. I'm doing now. For a while now, they had a while ago. They had a change of a schedule, and
Mhm.
so um, I'm able to do now 2 days of no gi and 2 days of gi. So I'm gonna say 50-50 on that. I know it's not the
Yeah,
answer you want.
I'm the same way. I'm like, you don't have to love one or the other. You can train both. They're both good. And
And as a police officer,
yeah,
let me ask you this because I get a lot of different takes from veteran officers because
yes,
they'll say, well, you're not wearing pajamas, on the streets. And I go, yeah, but criminals aren't wearing spandex either. You know what
no.
I'm saying?
And
So
and if I look at it too, like when somebody grabs my gi, I just think of them grabbing my vest. What would I do if somebody grabbed my vest? I
or
have
you're
to
grabbing
deal
their
with his
hoodie
break. Yeah, right.
or
I have to
jacket.
deal
Pretty
with
cold
his
over there,
arm.
right?
Right. So it works kind of both ways. So I think they're both good for law enforcement. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So
Sorry, it wasn't that much of a rapid fire, but yeah, I love both.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Favorite submission. I think I might know this one, but what's your favorite submission?
You think I'm gonna say Kimura, but I have
Yes.
I have grown very fond of heel hooks. I never would have
Really?
thought. Yes, yes.
Nice.
I'm gonna get made fun of this again from my school because I mentioned this in the Jiu-Jitsu dummies. But
Yeah.
that
Your
same
professor's going to be like, who taught you these heel hooks?
no, because that the same guy I mentioned earlier, Big Anthony Fish, we call
Yeah.
him. He started calling me Heel Hook Herrera.
Okay.
And that stuck. And so I always say I never thought I kind of avoided the lower body for the first
Yeah.
couple of years because I'm like as a cop, like,
Yeah.
Kimura,
And most
Kimura,
people
Kimura.
do. It's just, yeah. Right.
Yeah, but that's probably my favorite,
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That's good to hear. And
Yeah.
surprising. Least favorite position to be stuck in?
Oh, mounted by fish.
Okay. Mine is actually it's not mount because I can escape mounts for some reason better than I can escape side control. I don't know why. Like side control like is my kryptonite for some reason sometimes, and like I just struggle more in side control than I do. I'd rather be mounted. I can get out of mount better than I can get out of side control.
Do you
which
think
is
it's a weight thing maybe or
it might be a weight thing, position thing, and yeah, I just don't know why. It's just I have more trouble kind of getting out of side control and recomposing my guard than I do getting out of mount. So
that's interesting.
yeah, so that's
I always stuck to one there's this one video and I love short tutorials and it was actually by Master Henzo and it's about a minute and a half and it was a side control escape.
okay.
And you know Henzo can be kind of funny and he goes it's so easy, it's complicated, you
Right.
know? And he just showed this very basic way and I would just work on it and work on it and work on it. And so one of the things I used to do, I heard Gordon Ryan talk about this one time, and it just stuck with me. And I've gotten away with that maybe the last 3 4 months, only because I found myself getting stuck much more offensively. I'm like, I gotta expand on this. But
Hmm.
for years, I would pick a bad spot to start with, during the roll
Yeah.
for 6 months. So if you roll with me, hey, do me a favor, man, get side control on me.
Yeah.
And every roll for 6 months, that's what I was doing. And
Yeah.
then
And
it was,
force yourself into it. Yeah.
yeah, and then it was 6 months of like, hey, start, with having my back taken,
Hmm.
and then start 6 months of start mounted on me, just to work on my defense.
Yeah.
But the problem again with that is they're not getting these good offensive positions, and I don't know what to do.
Right.
So,
Exactly. And then you're like,
but
all right, where do I go from here? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
So
you're working on it. It'll all come together. Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, thanks for taking the time today. And today we talked to Officer Daniel Herrera. So thank you so much for sharing your time and your story and your mission.
Yeah.
And if you want to grab his book, Officer Danny Always Keeps Us Safe. Where can we find the book? There it
So again,
is.
probably the easiest way to find it is on Amazon, but it's on BarnesandNoble.com, Books a Million, all that good stuff, Walmart. But Amazon's probably the easiest thing for everybody. And I would say, please, to anybody who gets it, if you like it, which I'm sure you'll find it helpful, please leave a review. I think as parents and educators, we listen to like-minded people, and so when you have other parents and teachers. Um, Give it a positive review. That means something to the next person that may think about purchasing it. So,
Yeah,
but I really
absolutely.
appreciate you. You've been awesome, man. I love what you're doing and keep it up.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the show. And I always tell people, if you're in law enforcement, take that first step, try a jujitsu class. You won't be disappointed. That's kind of why I started this podcast, even though it's kind of grown a little from there. And, until next time, I hope you enjoyed the podcast and this episode. It was great talking to you. And, we'll see you on the mats.
All right. Thank you, buddy.